alongside me I have Colin Gregor, who's certainly no stranger to Myreside. And Colin, first of all, this early in the season, with both sides having a victory, you fancy that this is going to be a tasty encounter?
With the conditions as they are, hopefully we get a real quality afternoon of rugby, and both teams will want to make put a marker down. The last two victors in the little competitions, it's I guess it's early in the season, but it's a chance to say actually we're going to be the team to beat. And Watsonians probably have a bit more consistency, certainly in that kind of coaching setup that Pete Horn having left Ayr, but then I guess they've gone back to Pat MacArthur. So at least they have some sort of consistency in that they've gone Pat, Pete, Pat, and I think Pete will be there as well, sort of thing, making sure that he's keeping an eye on how they're getting on.
And two teams that know how to win. It was interesting that I was reading rather than listening to Fergus Pringle point out just before the start of the competition that yes, we are the champions of the sprint series, but in week 2 we face at home an Ayrshire Bull side that are overall champions, and that's going to be the real test for us.
Yeah, and it's just coaches trying to take a little bit of pressure off their players, isn't it? And say actually we're not the ones. It's put the pressure back on Ayr. They're the defending champions. As we see them heading out onto the pitch, no sweat quite yet on the brows of the players, but it won't be long before that's changed.
Yes, an August afternoon when the temperatures out there, I would imagine, will be in excess of 25 degrees as the Watsonians players in their mainly maroon tops are welcomed onto the field of play, as you can imagine. And it was a similar story last weekend at the Green Yards, a sizeable seating area at Myreside, but a lot of spectators are more than happy to stand in and around the safe standing areas around Myreside to enjoy the sunshine and enjoy the 80 minutes coming up.
Yeah, an exciting 80 minutes, or certainly we hope so. Finlay Brown, always big responsibility on referees, just to try and get a feel for the game, isn't it? And just let the game flow as much as possible, as much as the players will allow it. There'll be various members of both back rows that will want to test what they can get away with, but hopefully we don't hear too much on the whistle and we get a good running rugby this afternoon.
Yeah, Finlay Brown, Rory Campbell and Grant Stephen, the 3 match officials for the game. A 2 o'clock kickoff, the second match in week number 2 of this FOSROC Super 6 competition. Stick with us as well for coverage of Stirling against Heriots, that coming up at the conclusion of this game around about 4:30. But an early opportunity for Watsonians there, picked up immediately by Ian Moody. Moody, one of their try scorers last weekend in that haul of points, 36 in all against the Southern Knights. And nice little touch finder in between that 10 and 22, just easing the pressure on their 22 in the opening stages.
Ian Moody must be getting on now. I played with him. He was involved in the sevens a little bit with myself, so fair play for him. Still, I was going to say dusting off the boots, but not in conditions like this.
Neil Irvin Hess and Ian Moody, the 2 number 8s, were the first 2 to score last weekend. I thought there was quite a nice correlation that those 2, and again Irvin Hess still relatively young, but seems to have been around a long time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Who's then looking to build some territory or create some opportunities here, back in a position. Little grubber kick through there from Lanac. Had a little look at the options available to him. Picked up though by the home side, and they're looking to carry, as you see, just beyond the 22 as part of the clear it there. Harry Patterson goes in. It's recycled. Again, they look to Carl Main, Seb Cecil, Andy and Moody in that back row to do a power of work this afternoon, but it's going to be an early box kick from Murray Scott himself. He was replaced quite late in the game against the Southern Knights last weekend, and I think he'd be one of the contenders for player of the match. Eventually went to Conor Eastgate, but he's a very effective operator at 9.
He is an excellent clearing kick there, just finding touch. Both occasions he's gone to the touchline. I know that in the sprint series Watsonians really dominated Ayr at line out time, at set piece, so clear their tactics early on appear to be that actually get the ball off the field and look to see if they can apply pressure at source. But that's 2 from 2 really good lineouts from Ayr.
And very quickly down to the scrum half, through the hands then of Will Hunt. It's Hunt and Lanark that are operating at 9 and 10 for Ayrshire Bulls this afternoon. The trundling kick is gathered. Nice little out the side door offload there, almost a collision with James Shedden, outside centre, who was up in support, but now an opportunity for Bulls once again. Jackson was the initial creator, out towards Blair McPherson, carried down that right hand side, reinforcements coming in. Ellis Cavan just allowing his scrum half to do the mopping up. Over the ball is Smeaton, the blindside flanker, with that distinct mop of hair just on the top there as it's shipped back. Ball allowed to bounce just in front. Forwards were lined up and ready there as Watsonians are penalised just on the edge of their 22. Nimmo, Malcolm and Scott in that front row for the Ayrshire Bulls, already having touches of the ball. We'll get to see this again. There, the initial work from Smeaton, going to ground close to the 22. Lanark very quickly onto it, but his pass just not the sweetest there towards Andrew Nimmo.
Yeah, I think it was offside given against Watsonians, so I think it probably was interference with Lanark, the Ayr scrum half, which just brought that Ayr attack to an end. Which again, going through the phases, getting some yardage, getting some front foot ball. They'll not want to see James Malcolm down getting a bit of treatment. Looks like jumping to all sorts of conclusions that because of the rock solid ground, it's a bang on the knee. It's good to see him back after. Well, I think it's between MLR seasons, isn't it, over in the States. He's playing for Seattle, but keep sharpening the tools, get the airstrip on and see what he's all about at Super 6 level as well.
And they've Alex Maguire, William Farquhar and Calvin Henderson as replacements in the front row, and it's Aaron Tate who's lining up this penalty goal attempt. That just drifting wide of the left hand post there, but the referee again just is allowing the kick to go once more, because Finlay Brown, I think there was possibly some encroachment just as Aaron Tate was lining up the kick, but the ball in flight just wide of the upright, so he gets a second chance.
Yeah, I mean, he didn't hang about taking the kick. He was bringing the tee on, and then seconds later almost he'd struck it, so I don't know if there was just a little breakdown in communication about how long he thought he had, or Watsonian's infringing, so he gets a second shot at it. There's never a gimme, never an easy kick in rugby, but you'd hope that, or certainly Ayr would hope from this position, that they get the first points on the board this afternoon. And
hardly a breath of wind around Myreside, just glancing at the tops of those trees, they remain pretty still. That's a much better strike this time. Arrow was much more direct, and there's 3 points on the board, and 5 minutes almost played, 4.5 on the clock, and Ayrshire Bulls lead by 3 points to 0.
And it's been all Ayr down since the kick-off. They've just not let Watsonians out of their half. They've just built the pressure, and when they've had opportunity to take points, they've got them on the scoreboard. So let's see how Watsonians respond.
They tend to win arm wrestling contests, but they are willing and happy to play a much more open, expansive game. It's unfair just to talk about their physicality, but as Colin mentioned, let's see how Watsonians can respond. Scott and Miller will want to try and be architects of something a bit more creative, as they've got the first opportunity to carry now inside Ayrshire Bulls territory again. Scott this time on to Carl Davis. Davis with that nice delicate little offload, but Ayrshire Bulls remain high defensively as Scott goes in once more. Little glancing pass there on to Ian Moody by way of Lee Miller. It's picked up this time by Connor Eastgate. Eastgate's got a good left boot on him as well, but nimble footwork there and just trying to avoid a double roll as it comes back towards Carl Main. Open side flanker. Scott has it once more out there towards Miller. It will be interesting to see at what stage they may opt to bring Baggett back into play, because he certainly sustained a knock or had cramped after about an hour of the contest last weekend. But Miller is captain this afternoon and very effective at 10. That said, though, the penalty conceded by Watsonians just on that 10 metre line. 3 points to 0 remains the score.
Yeah, really aggressive defence, phase after phase there from Ayr, just not giving Watsonians a sniff. So the big double tackle on Ian Moody in midfield a couple of phases ago, and then it's just the recognition when Watsonians are just fractions of a second too slow to get to the breakdown. Ayr latch onto that ball, and the defence is rewarded by Finlay Brown, the referee, awarding a penalty. It's a good kick downfield as well.
Yeah, just as you see between that 10 and 22, another throw-in opportunity here then for James Malcolm. Those supporters that will have made their way through from Alloway will be hoping. He has managed to run off that knock to the knee very early on. That's one in the air by Archie Smeaton, and they're trying to work it out the back door with Smeaton, McNamara and Blair McPherson the back three. There's Smeaton in the foreground there wearing 6.
Just a wee error at the back of the maul. They're trying to get it set again. Really good execution of the basics at line out time, but then just frustrating that once they've got that maul set, just as they're passing the ball back to James Malcolm at the rear of the maul, the transition's not seamless, knock on, so a promising attacking position no more. This is first scrum of the afternoon.
First scrum so far, with nearly 7.5 minutes now played, so it's an early indicator of the respective sides, their strength on this very, very tinder dry surface. Going to dig the studs into the Myreside pitch. Scott then feeding the ball into the scrum. Reaches in as it works its way to the back of the scrum, and again looking for splinter runners to make their way up towards that 10. Back it comes again. Miller with the kick, gathered there by Ayrshire Bulls, and again just returned with a little bit of interest downfield with 3 back on the edge of the 22, and a chance for Watsonians aiming the kick again down that left hand Ayrshire Bulls channel. But once more they can run it from a deeper line position just to get a little bit of momentum in, work through the hands. It's closed down quickly by Angus Guthrie, the Watsonians left winger. Bulls again using Lanack to try and get things going once more. Lanack, the Australian scrum half, scoops down, has a look towards the right hand side. 3 ball carriers willing and ready, goes for the man in the middle, and this time Smeaton takes it on. The off inside flanker is Lewis McNamara. Smeaton on the blind side, and Lanack electing to kick this time. The box kick should carry halfway but just fall short of the 10. That was a committed challenge in the air. Patterson at fullback is going to be an important figure for Watsonians in the contest. Scott goes in once more, brings Carl Davis into play, clatters into the tackle from Archie Smeaton. Davis will get himself back onto his feet, was supported there by loose ball. And Watsonians trying to make some ground down on that right hand side.
Turned over, I think.
It has been stolen by Ayrshire Bulls, very quickly looking to mop up and turn defence into attack with once more Archie Smeaton just over the ball this time, so too McNamara. Lanack looking to line up another box kick. Has no wind to worry about or contend with this afternoon. Again, the high up and under, Watsonians are able to read that in the air, work it back up towards their own 10 metre line down the right hand side as Scott again goes in, makes himself available. Being one of the players with a distinctive blue scrum cap on his head, mopped up by Scott once more. Back it comes to the captain Miller, more of a trundling kick down that left hand side. Cavan then has a little delicate chip kick there from the hand, allowed to chase that as well. In fact, it was Lanack that made the kick, the scrum half, with a little kick and chase, and they chased well there. Watsonians, they were able to gather the loose ball, wasn't quite sure but made certain. Back it comes now to Carl Davis, tackled by Archie Smeaton, mopped up again by Scott. Out towards this left hand side they will go, trying to gain some ground. Guthrie followed all the way there by Cavan as it comes back once more, and again Archie Smeaton almost there's that shrill blast of the referee's whistle as we get to hear him in stereo sound now for the first time in the contest. 10 minutes gone.
Just in case you were nodding off there, Stuart, that's and great defence from Archie Smeaton, just latching on and winning the penalty, which Watsonians, they've started the first 11 minutes, they've not played much in their own half. That was maybe the first time they thought maybe there was an opportunity off the kick from Lanack, the Ayr scrum half, to try and launch out a counter, but Ayr get their defence well set and then they just pop it into the corner, so looking to build a bit more pressure. It's been a fairly cagey opening, hasn't it? Both teams, I think, still doing a bit of feeling each other out.
Yeah, of course, round 2 of the contest, so it's the cohesion and the understanding, as many of these players, both in Ayrshire Rules colours and Watsonians, know each other pretty well, but it is the start of the season, and the rhythm and momentum and fluency isn't quite what the coaching staff would want just at the moment. But Lanark again is able to feed the ball into a central position. James Malcolm was following play, but the infringement just inside the 22 results in the penalty and just eases the pressure there on a Watsonian side, trailing by 3 points to 0. Just a penalty goal separating the sides. Aaron Tate's penalty, the difference just at the moment. Be another scrummage and an opportunity for Watsonians inside their own 22 just to ease the pressure. And Colin, if you were just simply looking at the pitch, because obviously the buildings and surroundings gives it away a little bit, but just looking at the playing surface, you wouldn't think you were watching a game in Scotland in August.
That's for sure, yes. It's fairly. I don't think I've ever seen Myreside quite as brown. Yes, as thirsty for some serious hydration, which don't want to tempt fate, and bring this nice weather to an end. Big scrum from Watsonians. Even the tight head collapsed, according to the man that matters, Finlay Brown.
Just back here, please, Lee.
Get to see this again as the ball goes in from Scott there, and Andrew Nimmo is the player adjudged to have been penalised, so a chance for Watsonians then.
I think I'll just agree with Finlay Brown there. I've not got any additional expertise to opine. So Ed Cowman, former Glasgow Warrior and Scotland prop, has been doing some scrum work with Watsonians, so he'll certainly be delighted by that. I think that's him in the yellow bib on the right hand side of the technical area, as it were, for Watsonians.
Yeah, a little tick whenever anything like that happens, and you feel, if you're a specialist coach, it's again illustrating the importance of the role you have within the team. And Carl Davis, now he's an important figure. I always think he's very effective in the opposition 22 with their lineouts close towards the 5 metre line. His appearance to try scoring ratio is very impressive. Certainly at this part-time professional level. No immediate opportunity for Watsonians to make some ground.
You need to release quicker.
It ended up in a bit of a upper body brawl there.
Yeah, Ayr really good maul defence, and Watsonians they have to peel off the back, and you can just see there that actually Cal Davis, he did get his knees to the ground, so when Ayr then stripped the ball, the tackle had been complete. They should have released. Again, it's a matter of seconds though, fractions of seconds. They just got that strip in marginally earlier, they would have got away with it. But Finlay Brown sharp to recognise, no, the tackle has been completed, so it's an illegal strip, hence Watsonians get the penalty.
Another Davis throw-in, once again on in the air by Lewis Ball, towards the front of the line this time, back towards Davis. He's wrapped up in a tackle there and goes to Dex, goes in, has a little look, options Van Niekerk. Big powerful figure as well, one-handed offload as he was able to escape the tensions of Smeaton. Now splinter run opening up there. Eastgate was half through but just caught around that halfway line again. Watsonians looking to try and ship it through the hands quickly. Patterson, the fullback, goes in, has a little look at what is in front of him. As once more Davis is the carrier, just dropping that left shoulder. Scott again through the hands. Miller is there, effective at 10. Last player up on his feet is Lewis Ball, who gets back into position. And Watsonians having to deal with it. The tackles coming from the likes of Blair McPherson. Again, a left-footed kick this time. Eastgate down into that 22. No immediate pressure on the cover defence supplied there by the Ayrshire Rules. And that spin kick, it wasn't the sweetest there from Liam McNamara, but it has found touch closer to the 10 than the 22.
It's a water break.
Change in the scoreline, 3 points to 0. And Colin, this will be appreciated by the players and the officials. Almost 16 on the clock and with a water break.
And are you asking me so that you can have a water break as well, Stuart? Yeah, it's as we said, it's strange times in Scotland when in August you've got a very dry pitch and you're getting a little water break. It's normally a sort of pre-season when you then make changes to your team. An opportunity for the coaches as well, just to assess how the opening 15 minutes, 16 minutes have been. see if they want to make any tweaks, any changes. I think so far defences have been on top, and I guess when we're early in the season, the defence is the bit that it's probably easier to get right. You get your attitude, your energy, your enthusiasm, people just making the tackles, and then it's the attack that probably there's added layers to that, which you want time on task, you want games under your belt before the intricacies of that might all come together. So yeah, understand that it's a sort of defence dominated game so far.
And I guess both sides have kept a core of players from recent competitive tournaments that know each other well, and they can trust one another defensively.
That's a big part of defence, isn't it? Just having that trust. You work on your spacing, so you know how far away you're going to be from the man inside you, the man outside you, and you know actually the man inside me, I know he's going to make that tackle. I can trust him. I can maybe latch on and try and get a steal, try and pinch the ball, or I'll just let him do that. I'll realign for the next phase and just lead the line speed up. And that's Watsonians, just marginal overthrow.
Lost it forward on the floor.
Harrison Courtney came across with the instructions there for Carl Davis, going towards the back, just a little bit too much on it this time from the hooker.
Bit too much water, was it? A bit of Lucozade in the water maybe. Just
overcooked that one ever so slightly,
but it was Ayr actually that coughed up the error, trying to dive on that loose ball. They're adjudged to have knocked it on, so it's a reprieve for Watsonians. Instead of a line out to attack from, they've got a scrum centre field. Good attacking position actually. As a back, you like this situation. You trust that your forwards are going to get you a solid platform, and you've got options of where you go and how you attack.
Scott then feeds the ball in, watched all the way by Lanac, his opposite number, controlled there by Ian Moody. Moody is able to pick up once more to try and bring the backs into play just over that 10-metre line. Scott again across towards that right hand side. Watsonians, there's the referee called twice to release, then penalising Ayrshire Bulls there.
Very clear from referee Finlay Brown there that 13 has not rolled, which sometimes you get away with them, other times you don't. So on that occasion it's gone in the favour of the attacking team of Watsonians. First time basically into the Ayr 22, so let's see how they build the pressure. Do they come away with points?
Once more in position, Carl Davis looking to throw the ball into this line out, the deepest line out in terms of Ayrshire Bulls territory they find themselves in. Davis has it. Again, he's able to have a look up and look around to see what options are available. Scott initially, but there's the interception now, and suddenly Bulls accelerating away, up and over halfway, chasing back is Patterson. Is he going to be able to catch the inside centre who's running practically the length of the field? Robert Beattie, a mighty try from Beattie with 18 minutes on the clock, accelerating away that interception. Carl Davis looked up on a couple of occasions before making the initial pass, but what an interception from the inside centre. He had a fair amount of tracking to do. You can see how deep inside his own half the scrimmage, the maul is, first of all, because it did of course come from a line out. There's the interception, the snap run from inside the 22, and Colin, what a clean pair of heels he showed despite the cross tracking of Harry Patterson.
Yeah, Bobby Beattie used to play on the wing back at Glasgow Hawks, so he has got a bit of pace. An 80-metre run in these conditions is asking a lot, but actually you got to credit the Ayr forwards, because they didn't give Watsonians a half a yard, a centimetre off that line out maul, and it meant that instead of being on the front foot, instead of attacking into the Ayr defence, Cal Davies, he was static, and he gave that pass out to Murray Scott, and then it's great read from Bobby Beattie. It's one of those high risk plays. If you get that wrong, you really compromise the rest of your defence, but you get it right, you're rewarded with 5, maybe 7 points.
So this close towards the touchline after great acceleration on a very, very hard surface, of course. You'd feel every step he was taking there down the park, and this time it's William Hunt looking to add the conversion from a fairly empty stand, because most spectators standing in the sunshine. That's spinning around. Has he given it enough? He has, from the touchline. That will certainly boost his confidence in game, and Ayrshire Bulls an opportunist score converted by their fly half. The try coming from their inside centre, Robert Beattie, and they find themselves leading by 10 points to 0.
Yeah, and we're thinking Watsonians are getting back into the game. They're building pressure. They got into Ayer's 22, but they've been punished. It's a fantastic read, as we said, from Bobby Beattie getting that intercept, and Ayr have just about recovered the restart. Now a chance to clear their lines, make sure that the efforts of getting that try are rewarded by no soft points, no easy yards back to Watsonians. A good clearing kick from Lanack.
Yeah, some distance on that, back into the Watsonians half of the field. Patterson does well, fends off a couple of challenges there, but a real solid tackle comes in from James Malcolm just to slow up the young fullback. Penalty though awarded to Watsonians, and Ayrshire Bulls second row forward Rory Jackson penalised there on this occasion. 21 on the clock, 10-0 to Ayrshire Bulls. Watsonians will look to the likes of Lee Miller to try and create something to get a foothold back in the contest. They'll have been rocked conceding that try, particularly in the manner in which they did as they were on the attack at the time.
They were, yeah, but I mean, they've got enough experience in that team, Watsonians, don't they? They've got some wise old heads that 10-0 down after 20 minutes, there's absolutely no need to panic. They can just keep their composure, just build themselves back into the game. Get a great opportunity now, having won that penalty, or Ayr conceding the penalty. And Lee Miller's put them back into the Ayr 22, so yeah, they'll just be thinking, right, let's get our basics. Maybe they'll want to try and get the forward maul going a little bit better than it was on that last occasion. And just try and build some pressure on Ayr, test that Ayr defence.
The referee just looking for the match to resume as quickly as possible. Carriers then leave the field, and the Ayrshire Bulls will resume leading by 10 points to 0. But yes, this an early tester for Watsonians, just to call on those reserves, that experience that they've had in the past. Throw in again. Now this a similar position where they had the ball and then threw the ball too close in the direction of Beattie. Don't think he'll necessarily want another 80-metre run to the line at this stage in the afternoon. Be willing to have a go if he was given the opportunity, of course. Looking to try and strip it, Ayrshire Bulls, forcing Watsonians back. As players then end up on the deck, but Scott has it now. As I look at the options, will he go to the loose head there, Harrison Courtney? He does. Courtney then plants the ball back towards Scott. This is Miller. Delicate hands there, bringing Berg into play. They're getting into a more central position now on the fringes of that 22. And again bringing Cecil and Moody in as deeper line carriers. This is Miller once more, on towards Connor Eastgate, cuts inside on that right side. We mentioned he's got a very good left boot on him as well. That's taken forward this time by Gregor Skugel, the tight head prop. Still on the edge of that 22. You see how faint the 22-metre line is just on the park at the moment. Loose ball lowers from his great height, takes the ball into contact. Scott mops up once again. Still they're pressing and probing, trying to find a way through this Ayrshire Bulls defence. Bulls leading by 10 points to 0. An electric try from Robert Beattie about 4 or so minutes ago, really opening up the advantage for the visiting side. And of course the champions of the FOSROC Super 6 competition, runners back in October of 2021, beating Southern Knights in the final. Still Loman McPherson and Watsonians have possession. Scottish scrum half goes in, finds Miller once again. Looks to perhaps delay the pass. He's going to bring Ian Moody into play there. Moody, the number 8, backtracks, goes into the body of the kit this time, and it's recycled again by Watsonians, trying to make some ground, but Ayrshire Bulls protecting the edge of that 22 as if it is their own try line just at the moment.
Really good ball retention from Watsonians, but matched by quality Ayr defence. But on that occasion, just the tackle, Blair McPherson just a little bit high.
Number 8 high tackle,
as we hear Finlay Brown saying there. And so whilst Ayr did then stem the Watsonians tide, that's illegally done, or there's no advantage, so they can come back for the penalty. Tiring passage of play that as well. Stuart Ball in play for a long time. A lot of intensity, real physicality to the carries, to the tackles.
No water on.
As you say, Ayr's defence was outstandanding.
Yeah, a lot of clean phases there from Watsonians, neat and tidy. Just that you could see they were just trying to find a wee chink in the Ayrshire Bulls' defence.
Yeah, not looking to go out to the width this early on in the game, looking at, right, let's just use our physicality, the kind of 1-2 pass games, get our big ball carriers carrying into the heart of that Ayr defence. And partly let's see how the Ayr defence is, but also you think on a day like today, it's going to have an effect later on. Players will tire, inevitable in these conditions.
So an early tester here for Lee Miller. This should be just meat and drink for him as he lines up this first opportunity for Watsonians to get points on the board. No problems at all then. Almost 25 minutes on the clock. A response in the form of a penalty goal from their fly half. They're off and running, they still trail, but it's now Watsonians 3, Ayrshire Bulls 10.
Yep, really clean strike from Lee Miller, which you almost expect, and the 3 points just rewards after a multi-phase attack, which, yep, although they didn't break down the Ayr defence, they did well just keeping a hold of ball and forcing Ayr into that offence or that ill discipline.
Another again, solid collision you can hear as the two sets of forwards just coming together. Scott once more under a bit of pressure, he's able to deliver another box kick. That's a good touch finder as well. Was floating delicately towards that touch line, bounces once into touch right on the halfway line, and that just eases the pressure a little bit on Watsonians from that restart.
Yeah, fantastic clearing kick, really good to get into the opposition territory from a box kick of your own 22. It's a good effort, a good outcome.
Malcolm's throw, a bit of movement in the line, and this time just towards the back of the line, and again fed down with some acceleration coming in. Smeaton continuing the run beyond that 10-metre line. Lanark in behind once more. Bulls certainly looking to add to their tally of 10 points so far. Very quickly through the hands, worked out towards the right hand side, and Cavan now comes in. He stopped short of the 10 metre, the 22, beyond that 10 of course, and now mopped up very quickly. Bulls looking to the likes of Bloodworth and Jackson in the second row to provide perhaps some openings, create some opportunities. The right wing Aaron Tate coming scampering in just to try and ensure the ball was still playable from an Ayrshire Bulls point of view. Nothing doing for them on this occasion, no.
Really good attack up until the end, where it's the Watsonians hooker Cal Davies. Not often you're allowed to manhandle a scrum half in the manner that Cal Davies just did, but got away with it. Finlay Brown saying he's come straight through the middle. He's perfectly entitled to. So what had been a promising Ayr attack, good support from Smeaton, getting the offload, keeping that momentum, getting in behind Watsonians and bringing it out to this right hand side, playing with a bit of width, looking threatening, but Cal Davies to the Watsonians rescue, just disrupting the ruck and earning Watsonians to put into the scrum.
Yeah, it was a good carry from the loose head Nimmo, and it was at his point when he made contact with the Watsonians defence that the home side were able to wrestle possession away, get the upper hand, eventually win the penalty.
Let's go again.
So we just hear Finlay Brown explaining that the hookers need to keep their break foot in position a little bit longer, just trying to reduce the stress and the impact of the forwards or the packs coming together at scrum time.
Set.
Scott just in the middle of the three. Referee then takes a step back. Scott feeds the ball into this Watsonian scrum. Just appears at the corner. A little bit uncertainty once more as it's taken on by Ian Moody, taking ownership of the ball with Scott in behind once again. A standing start as the back rows collide there. Lewis McNamara staying upright to try and avoid Watsonians making any ground as they'll work it back. Kick is charged down, ball ends up in touch then, and you can see not for the first time they've opted for charging down. Coming flying through there was Rory Jackson, and Jackson you can see again just accelerating away. There was the kick, reaching up with those telescopic arms, but just a little bit too forceful.
Yep, good analysis, knowing that Watsonians have their right and left kicking options. Eastgate on that occasion with the left foot, but it's Rory Jackson, good pressure and getting the charge down, but Watsonians good execution of their line out just to give them the opportunity to try and clear their lines again.
Seb Cecil winning and Scott then clearing from hand just beyond that 22.
He'll be a wee bit disappointed with that kick. He just fell back off it. He was a bit imbalanced as he kicked it, so ended up coming closer to the touchline than he maybe would have wanted. Would have liked to get a few more yards, I'm sure, on that clearance kick. 35 metres out from the try line. It does give Ayr a good attack position.
Both sides in their opening weekend victories were much more clinical and forceful, we could say, in the second half. I remember watching Watsonians last weekend. It was about this time in their match with Southern Knights that they started to come to light, to come to life certainly, and their game plan did come to light at that stage. But Ayrshire Bulls from the line out then, able to feed the ball very quickly through the hands, working it from right to left. Referee though spotted a further infringement between that 10 and 22. So the first offence, you can hear the handling error.
It's a knock on in the tackle, it's then hit a white player, and then you're in front of the ball carrier. That's why it's not play on, okay?
There we go, good explanation from Finlay Brown. That Ayr probably looking slightly more threatening with their attack, but just not quite sticking, or the kind of Watsonians defence is doing well to make the scrag tackles, just to bring the Ayr attacker to ground. Just the ball's not quite going to hand, although on that occasion it was a Watsonians arm that got in the way, so Ayr have another chance to launch an attack.
And this time it's Ayrshire Bulls that will feed the ball into the scrum, with Blair McPherson controlling and then delivering it number 8 on towards Lynott. A little dummy pass there as they ship it out towards the right hand side. Again, some pace in the form of Elias Cavan on that right hand side. Not required this time as it puts its way back from Lynott onto the number 8 and Captain McPherson. Lynott goes in once again. Part of the clear out there was Smeaton. Ball is available. It comes back on the Ayrshire Bulls side. Box kick from the scrum half. Bounces once. Patterson watching it. Oh, it bounces a second time and he's able to gather the ball there again, maybe a little uncertain, but luck favouring him on this occasion, and from close quarters he was able to deliver a better clearance from hand downfield. I think he felt that after one bounce that may end up in touch here. See the fullback watching to see what was around him as well. He was aware that Liam McNamara was heading in his direction, his opposite number.
Interesting option from Lynott to put the box kick in when you're just outside the 22, but when the ground's this firm, then you never know the joy of a rugby ball where it's going to bounce, and on that occasion it almost, well, it certainly caused a bit of panic and uncertainty in the Watsonians defence, but they did manage to just about get away with it as we have another water break.
The second one, I think, may well be around every 15 minutes. They'll introduce water breaks during the course of the afternoon.
So one of you is open. I can't have that.
But yeah, depending on the bounce of the ball, it could get quite a high bounce, depending on how it lands on the turf. And of course that brings in a little bit of uncertainty in terms of, it gives the player shadowing a little bit of time. But it also gives the on-rushing attack a bit of time as well to get the runs. Correct.
Yeah, indeed, and on that occasion Harry Patterson just about coped with it, and yeah, you almost think actually, was it McNamara he said that was following up for Ayr, that he almost didn't want to go for the ball. If he just waited and let Patterson gather it, he would have tackled him into touch. It would be a great attacking position. But in that situation, when you see a ball like that, instinct, everything says I can go for that. Just missed out on that occasion.
So Patterson's clearance has taken play up to the halfway line, and we rejoin it with James Malcolm throwing the ball into this Ayrshire Bulls line-out. Bobby Beattie's try separating the sides, that converted by William Hunt. The Ayrshire Bulls scrum half, a penalty apiece as well in this first half, and a good driving run here by James Malcolm, who's making some headway. Those socks wrapped around the ankles. Lynott goes in, he's forced backwards there, as that was some determination shown by Van Niekerk, but out it comes quickly through the hands. Again, Beattie using his hands this time. Back it will come though to James Malcolm. Hurling the challenge there was Nimmo. Lynette goes in again, has a little look towards that left hand side. Goes again, just trying to break through the Watsonians defence using the scrum half, offloading to Smeaton. Blindside flanker going into contact again. He's been a busy figure, but so too this man, Michael Scott, up there. And it flowed just on the edge of the 22, just above head height, but caught well as Bulls again looking to try and work from a deeper line position. DT again taking the ball into contact. Lanack in behind him. Smeaton carries. Collisions coming in. Very forceful from both these sides. The winners of the full series last year against the winners of the sprint from the spring. Aaron Tate is tackled inside the 22. Lanack over the ball at the moment. Ayrshire Bulls again look to reorganise. Watsonians have got a tight defence at the moment, but it's the visiting side from Alloway making ground, eating into that 22 as McPherson is poised and ready. Here he has it now, almost colliding with his opposite number, but Ian Moody just taking a step to the side. Picked up this time by Rory Jackson. It's a yard or two before going to deck. Penalty to Ayrshire Bulls. That was decent ball retention and ball carrying there, an illustration of the forward power this time from the Bulls.
Yeah, just there winning the contact, winning the collision on almost every phase there, just getting on the front foot, getting over the gain line, just making it really difficult for Watsonians to get their defence set, to apply any sort of pressure. Really good to mix it up a bit as well. A really strong carry from the Ayr centres to start off, and Robert Beattie involved a couple of times, both linking, distributing and carrying as well. And then as we got into the 22, you just saw the forwards taking over. Big Smeaton's a big dynamic presence, isn't he, in that back row for Ayr, and it should be a pretty straightforward 3 points.
Hunt placing the ball on the tee. As you see in the picture there, the task at hand to extend Ayrshire Bulls' lead then to a margin of 10 points going into the final 5 minutes of the first half. No problems at all. 5 minutes then to the break, 13 points to 3, and that a decent return for some good work inside the Watsonians half.
Yep. As an away team, if you get into the opposition sort of 40 metres, 22 around there, if you come away with points, you're going to be happy with that, and that's exactly what Ayr have done. Restart
contested there in the air. Bulls having 4 players around the ball, and it's back in immediately to Smeaton once more from Lanack, and Smeaton running in there to Harrison Courtney, trying to force him back as Lanack again looking to regroup. Just that international feel with the likes of Van Niekerk and Courtney in the Watsonian side, and Ayrshire Bulls as well can call upon the experience of this man on the ball, Lanack, as well, with that long ranging box kick this time as gathered though. And once again Watsonians looking to try and make some ground. Better play here from their fullback as Patterson is up and over that 10 metre line, quickly recycle, looking to take the ball on at pace, but that just ricocheting off the right shoulder there of Lewis Berg, who's coming onto the ball at a rate of knots. The referee was just colliding with the Watsonians number 8 as he's signalling no advantage.
Knock on.
Yeah, it's one of those you almost put down to beginning of the season, isn't it? Where Watsonians, great work from Harry Patterson. No idea how he bounced through the Ayr kick defence, but he did, and he got Watsonians on the front foot. They then looked to come a little bit wider off that next phase, but then it's Berg, isn't it, the outside centre, running that short line. I think the expectation was that they were going to continue to go a bit wider. That's why the ball was fired at him. Difficult one to take, and on this occasion he wasn't able to take it, so a promising attacking position for Watsonians has come to nothing. Yeah,
the pace in the pass, it was that sort of risk rewards pass, because if that had come off for Watsonians, you felt as he was taking the ball in, some acceleration, a little bit of space had opened up in front of him, opening up a good few possibilities for them.
Yeah, and he was running the angle that he was running, coming back almost from the outside back in. He was picking the kind of the soft shoulder, as it were, of the Ayr defenders. The defenders are coming from the ruck out, so they're not expecting that line that he's running on. So there's a real opportunity for him to break a tackle, maybe get an offload away if he didn't get through. But you have to catch the ball first, and on that occasion that's the bit that let Watsonians down.
Yeah, it's back with Jordan Lanack. You know the connection with Jordan Lanack in Rugby League in Hawick? Have you heard the story?
I have not.
His great-grandfather hailed from Hawick and was part of the first Great Britain side to tour Australia, Rugby League side to tour Australia. He boarded the vessel with an injury, aggravated it during a tug-of-war competition so severely that he didn't actually play any part in the tour. But eventually settling in Australia, and some generations later we have Jordan on the park, and it's a nice little story about tales from yesteryear and how you connect the two codes and north and southern hemispheres.
I will not ask how you found that story, Stuart, but that's quality, yeah.
It's a nice little touch there. I think we mentioned it at some point last season, and then I think it was the Hawick paper, as is now, had some weeks later had quite a nice detailed piece about the player.
Ah, excellent. Very good, yeah.
So no, it's interesting because at this level, many of these players do have really interesting stories to tell about the experience they've had, or coming in again through parents and grandparents' influence, particularly those that have maybe travelled from the other side of the world.
Yeah, and I guess that's the Super6, whilst it's there to try and provide that bridge for Scottish players to get into the professional ranks, then bringing in some foreigners that might add quality to it. It also adds that kind of international feel, so you get a team where you learn more about your teammates, or you just have different cultures, and that whole diversity piece that you want in team, it's really valuable, as long as it's not getting in the way of developing young Scottish talent, I suppose.
And as well, there's another stoppage in play. I suppose you, given your own background, have particular interest in the likes of Colleen Barretto and Jordan Edmonds, two players from, say, Boroughmuir Bears that then featured prominently with Scotland in the Commonwealth Games recently.
Yeah, did well down there as well, and so it's just trying to find more opportunity for more Scottish players to get higher quality rugby. And the sevens is one avenue for that, but sevens isn't suitable for all shapes and sizes. The front five, this is in particular where you hope that the likes of the Super6 can provide a bit of a bridge, so that if they are called upon, if they have the potential to then get to the pro ranks, they've got some really meaningful experience under their belt.
I'm looking to try and create an opening here. William Hart, fly half of Ayrshire Bulls. Lanack has a little look to the right hand side. Will he go left? He does indeed. Again, just picking the pass, bringing the forwards into play. Carl Davis with the tackle. Back to the skipper, Blair McPherson. Still just short of the 22. You see just in the edge of the picture, right hand side. Once again, scrum half, kicking towards the corner, and Harry Patterson just watching it all the way. I think there's just enough weight on that. It was certainly not going to come back off the advertising hoardings, but that will bring the first half to a close. 13 points to 3 then. The first half has produced the 16 points. It's certainly not set the heather on fire under these conditions, perhaps no bad thing, but it has been one of these occasions where, as you mentioned a few times, Colin, in commentary, both sides are just trying to learn more about the opposition. They're not playing at full tilt, they're not quite in full flow, but they're both offering up a lot of attractive play.
Yeah, and I think we can't underestimate the conditions as well, and how energy sapping playing in this sort of heat, the actual how firm the ground is, just the bumps and the bangs, that every collision, the physicality of the forwards in particular has been pretty massive. And so then if you've got a big collision when you hit the ground as well, it all takes it out of you. So it's all poised for the second half, and the potential that as the fatigue kind of kicks in, that there might be more opportunities, that there might be kind of half gaps, and it's which team's going to recognise them, which team's going to exploit them and capitalise.
Yeah, we'll hear more from Colin in just a couple of minutes' time as we assess that first 40 minutes. But First of all, let's take a look at some rugby coming up later this month and next month as Scotland's women play the United States on Saturday the 27th of August, and then of course they take on Spain on Sunday the 11th of September. Both games being played at the Damhealth Stadium in Edinburgh and helping the squad prepare for the Rugby World Cup, which of course comes up a little bit later on in the year. Now, ahead of these two matches, Scotland international Rona Lloyd talked us through the moments that made her.
Hi, I'm Rona Lloyd and these are the moments that made me. So this is a photo of when we qualified for the World Cup in Dubai this year. I was involved, I got my first cap in 2016, which was the year that the last round of World Cup qualifiers where we lost to Spain on aggregate over a 2-match series, and being part of that, I was 19 at the time, was like it was just extremely hard to see the older girls in the squad that were going to retire, that were never going to go to a World Cup, and kind of definitely felt like almost like responsible for that as kind of one of the more inexperienced players in the squad. And yeah, it was like such a horrible feeling at the end of that game, and I remember thinking then like that I didn't ever want to feel that way again or let that happen. So to have been in the squad during that 5 years and watched us grow from strength to strength with like a lot of the same faces to then qualify for the World Cup in Dubai was like absolutely incredible. And we were the bottom seed going into Euros, which we got out of at second place, and then we beat Colombia to eventually like secure our spot for the World Cup, which will be Scotland's first in 12 years. So it's just been like the most like incredible roller coaster to get there. So yeah, like super proud to have been part of that, and it's a really like monumental moment for Scottish women's rugby. So this is a photo of the team that I'm playing for this season, which is Les Lions de Stade Bordelais in Bordeaux over in France. It's my like first season playing over there, and a photo from my first match with them in the league there. And like going to France was like a pretty last minute decision that I made over the summer, and I just couldn't have predicted like what an incredible experience it would be, or like how quickly I would just fall in love with that team. And I think it's been like an excellent decision for my rugby, but also off the pitch to like be the person who can't speak the language is like not an experience I think you get very often as an English speaker. And I've like learnt so much about myself in the first couple of months there, and like I don't know where I'll be in the future, but that team I think will always be extremely special to me. It's just such a brilliant bunch of girls, and we're top of the league at the moment, which Bordeaux haven't been for 10 years. So it's been a very special season to be with the club, and yeah, I'm looking forward to like finishing off the league with them. The next photo is a photo of me running out with the Barbarians to play against South Africa at Twickenham, which was like to get selected for the Barbarians was an absolute honour, and I got the call on my birthday from the manager, so it seemed a bit like a birthday present too. But it just came at like such like a brilliant time, and last season was hard with the I was training with the Olympics and didn't get selected and stuff. So then to get selected for the Barbarians really felt like a really incredible opportunity. The match so we were meant to be playing after the men's match, a double header against Samoa, but the men had COVID, and unfortunately the match had to get cancelled, which meant that we became like the headline event at Twickenham. So like it was just absolutely wild, and I met like so many special friends there and got to play with like absolute legends of game from all over the world who I've kept in contact with. And I think you hear about the Barbarians and everybody says it's special, but actually to be there I kind of got to experience firsthand like what an incredible thing it is to be part of. And yeah, it was like one of the coolest matches of rugby I've ever played in my life, so it was extremely special. Yeah, so last photo here is a picture of my mum and dad after the match. It was a match against France away where I think we lost, it was like 35-12, but we scored our first try against France in 9 years during that time, and I scored a try that match and it was the only time I got the ball. And it was so funny because my parents after the game like didn't care that we'd lost or anything. They were just like so excited that I'd scored a try. And I've got like so many photos exactly like this one after matches, or of my parents with the other girls, and it's so special to me like how supportive they've been throughout all the rugby journey, that now they get to like share kind of what I'm doing playing for Scotland, and like everybody in the team knows them. And yeah, they're just like kind of like my two biggest supporters, so I love seeing their faces after matches, and it doesn't matter if we win or lose, they're always like the same with me, and I'm like just super lucky to have those guys.
Always good hearing a little bit of stories about some of the players how they get to playing for Scotland. And obviously an exciting time for the Scotland women, Stuart, isn't it, with the World Cup in a couple of months, or later in the year, and obviously the big investment Scottish Rugby have put into women's rugby, which I think it's just at the right time given the way that the other countries are going. It's exciting,
and of course they're aware of the exposure they're getting as well, with them being part of the Commonwealth Games, as you mentioned, the Rugby World Cup. We know now that global competitions are bringing a much greater interest than they perhaps would have done 10-20 years ago from the media. Social media is playing a part of that as well, so it's only going to enhance the game, you would imagine, you'd hope anyway.
Yeah, and good that Scotland are fully on board and playing at the World Cup, but we'd better get back to action here.
Yeah, let's take a look then at the first half. There is the scoreline: Watsonians 3, Ayrshire Bulls 13. But let's take a look at some of the action in the first half. Now, this was the penalty. It was a retaken penalty that led to Ayrshire Bulls opening the scoring, that coming in the first 7 minutes of the first half. And then Watsonians, Colin, well, they were on the attack. They had a Carl Davis throw in. Davis then takes control of the ball, tries to bring in Scott, and the scrum half's pass is intercepted by Bobby Beattie.
Yeah, it's a great read from Bobby Beattie. I think that we touched on Ayr's defence at that maul was excellent. It didn't allow Watsonians to get on the front foot, and so then the Cal Davies pass and then Murray Scott's pass, they're not attacking Ayr as much as the Ayr defence, and then to really sort of rub salt in the wound for Watsonians, a fantastic conversion to make it a 7-pointer. But you want to strike back. You want to get, when you're in opposition territory, you want to get points, and that's what we've seen actually. It's been cagey, but the fact that when you're, I think it was 10-0 down, was it? You take 3 points when you're Watsonians playing at home. It doesn't matter. Let's just get something on the scoreboard. And Ayr just towards the end of the half thinking exactly the same. Once they were in position, Watsonians infringed. Right, let's just keep chipping away at this scoreboard. So it's a difficult one to call. I mean, Ayr have, I think they've looked slightly more threatening when they've had ball in hand. They've probably won the physical battle more often. I think their defence has been really, really aggressive. I think that you can see it through Blair McPherson.
Yeah, apologies for that little interruption there, but the players, as you see, just making their way back out onto the playing surface here at Myreside. Ayrshire Bulls first onto the park, and they finished strongly as well, because they were on the attack again. I think it was a Jordan Lanack kick from hand, little box kick, just a little bit too strong, shepherded out by Harry Patterson, that bringing the last play of the half.
Yeah, and they'd had a bit of ascendancy at set piece. They'd won a penalty at scrum time. They'd been really dominant in that last scrum before half time. Then they got another penalty, just worked their way up the field in a good attacking position. They have gone to the kind of box kick, the chip kicks in and around Watsonians 22, which is interesting. They want to find the ground and just see where the ball's going to bounce on this rock solid surface. So far Watsonians have dealt with it well, but that's the gamble of a rugby ball. You never know where it's going to go.
Yeah, last weekend again in the match I covered, the Southern Knights and Watsonians, both teams making a significant number of changes at half time, which was quite unusual to see so many changes made at the interval. But we know that Bobby Bratton is on for Gregor Skugel in the front row for Watsonians, so that a change made by Fergus Pringle. Kick is charged down, and Watsonians now looking to try and come on to a loose bit of play there inside the Ayrshire Bulls half of the field, inside the 22, and immediately, how about that, to make an impression coming off the bench, Bobby Bratton, been on the park no more than 40 seconds, and he's engineered a try for Watsonians, their first of the afternoon, and that brings them right back into the contest.
Talk about impact substitutes. maybe not the impact you expect your replacement prop to make. But again, it's the second row. It's just putting pressure on. It's a big Quagga van Niekerk on that occasion. Just don't give the opposition any easy outs from their 22. And it's recognising that the loose ball. Everyone basically in front thinking that they'll just chase William Hunt's kick up field, but it's a great charge down from Van Niekerk. And whereas in the first half it didn't lead to a try for Ayr, when Rory Jackson charged down the clearing kick, on this occasion Watsonians keep their calm, keep their composure when they're centimetres from the line. And it's a good pick up and dive over from Bobby Bratton, and it's a 7-pointer with the straightforward conversion.
Ian Moody involved as well, as Colin rightly mentioned, the effective play from Van Niekerk. Moody then carrying on, and the prop forward. Well, I was about to say, wonder what the bench is going to throw up during the course of this second half in terms of players with that point to prove, opportunities to try and impress the coaches, maybe make a game-changing move in the match. But as we watch Liam McNamara taking the ball from the air there, good play from the fullback, good powerful running here as well from Blair McPherson, taking all in front of him there. The Ayrshire Bulls, the hugely experienced Bulls number 8 and captain Lanakis caught up in a tackle. The advantage coming the way of Ayrshire Bulls. That was short-lived.
I thought that was a professional foul. Sorry to interrupt, Stuart. I thought that could be a yellow card. I'd be having a word with Finlay Brown, the referee there, if I was the Ayr captain.
It's in front of the mark.
In fact, it was Ayr captain, wasn't it? It was Blair McPherson that made the break. Absolute barnstorming run up the middle of the field.
And somebody again, when we're talking about the pathway from club to Super 6 to perhaps a professional contract, I mean he was around Ayr as they were for a number of years in his eyes before going to Ayrshire Bulls, winning championships, contesting Scottish Cup finals, been there or thereabouts season in, season out, and he's continued that form and probably relished the opportunity to play at this slightly higher level. And his physical, his whole physical presence has changed in the last couple of years. Yeah,
and we talked at half time about the physicality that Ayr are bringing to this game, and Blair McPherson's a big part in that. He is very much leading by example, and Ayr are rewarded with the straightforward 3 points off the back of it, and I guess that's where the Super 6 potential opportunity for players who maybe are slightly later developers, which in Scottish rugby, if you're not going to get in the academy and within a couple of years get a professional contract, actually if there's a meaningful next level that you can play at for a couple of years, then that might be all you need just to get that little bit more experience, mature physically and mentally, to then take that next step into the professional game.
Just watching on there, Ed Bloodworth was the player that was able to gather the ball in, or he tried to gather it in cleanly, knocked the ball forward, then accidental offside. And here's an interesting change with Conor Eastgate being replaced by Jason Baggett, and Baggett had pretty much a good hour. You can see a bit of a strap in there on the left thigh and the right thigh as well, because he was clutching both at various times during the match last weekend. But he'll want to come on and play his part, but it looks like it could well be a straight switch for Eastgate. So Watsonians mixing things up just a little bit in the midfield.
Be interesting to see if it changes how they play. Do they look to add a bit more width to their game? They have been pretty direct the times they've had ball so far, which is the way that they have been playing of late.
I suppose they don't have the left-footed kicking option in the midfield that Conor Eastgate was able to bring them, but they're on the front foot at the moment, having scored the opening try of this second half. So Ayrshire Bulls try coming, an intercepted pass from the fringes of their own 22. Watsonians try courtesy of a charge down. Good play from the second row forward, Van Niekerk. Still Watsonians have it around the fringes of that 22. Scott, real little live wire, goes in, looks at what's available. Baggett then comes in, playing almost in the standoff position there as first receiver. On now it goes towards Bobby Bratton, who scored that try. Electric start to the second half for Watsonians. The offload there from the scrum half. Scotland goes in once again. Tackle comes in from Archie Smeaton, and the referee brings play to a halt. as 3 Ayrshire Bulls players straying offside, and this is becoming
Thanks,
an important phase in the game for
Offside.
Watsonians, with them scoring so early in the second
Shot
half
called.
and showing a bit more intent perhaps in the opposition in and around that 22.
Yeah, they've just had the momentum for the first sort of 6 minutes basically of this second half, going through the phases. It was quite early on in that passage that Ayr did infringe, as you heard Finlay Brown saying that they were offside, gave Watsonians a free ball, a free chance to attack, to throw caution to the wind, as it were. But Ayr's defence, as it has been throughout this game, was rock solid. Hence Watsonians going back to try and narrow the gap.
And Miller continues the work from the tee. Look to reduce their arrears then back to 3 points. Visitors from Alloway, the current FOSROC champions, up against the Super 6 Sprint Series winners. And we are back to 3 points. Watsonians 13, Ayrshire Bulls 16.
7 and 9.
And it's setting up a really exciting second half.
So we hear more subs. I'm not too sure which team 7 and 9 are being replaced, but yep, it's looks like, is it Ayr? Is that a couple of the Ayrshire Bulls players walking off?
I'm glad I shoehorned the Lanark information in when I did. And now that he's off the field, felt compelled to share that with you.
Change at 9, sometimes just shift or try to increase the tempo a little bit. I think the knack has been good, but 47 minutes in these conditions, it will be pretty hot work. So Cam Jones, chance for him to have a little run around as well. I think he's been in training with Glasgow Warriors a bit, so he'll be wanting to impress, wanting to show what he's all about. He scores a lot of tries as well, the kind of George Horn model of just following the play and getting the support lines and picking up offloads and picking up the inside on 2-on-1s and things. So if Ayr make a break, I expect to see him there or thereabouts.
And the Bulls look as if they made a few changes in that front row as well. As we'll watch now Watsonians trying to make some ground, but slowed up very quickly there by Ed Bloodworth, one of the tallest players on the park. There's confirmation that Tim Brown is on for Lewis McNamara. Of course, Tim Brown back after his enforced absence with his involvement with the Scotland under-20s. So the only 2 players coming into the squad as replacements from those in the 23 from last week are now on the park. Cam Jones on for Jordan Lanark, and as we mentioned there, Tim Brown now also on the park. So interesting that Cam Jones also wearing a 24 jersey rather than the conventional replacement scrum half jersey of 21. Another stoppage in play here. It's just a 3-point game, and I suppose the tournament organisers and the supporters as well would be looking at this middle fixture this weekend and hoping perhaps for a close run thing, something going down to the wire. And it's certainly proving with 48 minutes on the clock that it's a difficult one to call.
It is indeed, yeah. You'd have thought, well, at half time Ayr would definitely be comfortable or happy with how they'd managed the first half, how their defence had really dominated Watsonians' attack, how Bobby Beattie had scored that intercept try. But yeah, at the start of this second half, that charge down from Van Niekerk and the following score for Bobby Bratton, it's just shifted the momentum. Ayr are a bit flatter, and so they've gone to the bench to try and see if that can energise the team. It's difficult, isn't it, whether it creates energy with the replacements, or does it just sort of fragment things because of the changes. So both teams have gone to the bench quite a lot in the opening 9 minutes. So we'll see, and it's big maul from Watsonians. Getting yards they didn't get in the first half.
Just at the back of it once more is Carl Davis. He'll be licking his lips at an opportunity to try and score against Ayrshire Bulls from a situation like this. Very effective from close range lineouts from about 5 or so metres out. We know Kieran Watt is on for loose ball, a replacement in that second row for Watsonians. So both these sides now making some changes at regular intervals. Apologies if you picked up any bad language there, just in the background as Carl Davis is able to pick up once more, wrapped in the tackle by McPherson, who's back to his feet. Outside centre this time is Lewis Berg, one of the try scorers down at the Green Yards last weekend. Scott once more on, flat pass brings Seb Cecil into play, driving towards the line, hugged in the tackle there by Alex Maguire, the replacement Ayrshire Bulls hooker. Watsonians go once again, looking to try and spin round and find a way to the line, and it's the loose head prop who's in for the score. Harrison Courtney with the try. The big powerhouse gets back to his feet, takes the congratulations from his teammates there. The ball worked its way back to Van Niekerk, and we saw how effective he was in the opening minutes, scoring, or creating I should say, the try scoring opportunity for Bratton. And this time it's another front row forward, escaping the attentions of Blair McPherson, who was forced to spin round in the attempted tackle. And Watsonians are now in front, 18 points to 16.
Bringing an increased physicality to their game in this second half. Got ascendancy at maul time to get them on the front foot, and then it's nothing flash, it's just pick and goes, one pass, get their big ball carriers just charging into the Ayr defence and just making yard after yard or inch after inch, and then in the end it's another try for a prop for Watsonians, and we see the conversion straightforward again. So for the first time today, Watsonians are in the lead.
Yep, first time in the lead, and going back to the comments you made about sort of 20 or so minutes into the game, you were talking about Watsonians sort of playing the long game, playing the patient game, calling on their experience and their skill set, and they were perhaps being asked questions at 10 points to 3 that they had every reason to be confident that their time would come in the game, they would be able to engineer openings, and well, they now have a 4-point lead as Van Niekerk again from the deck. Box kick from Scott is gathered in the air this time from the fullback McNamara, who wants to be on the front foot, supported there by Gavin Wilson, another one of the Ayrshire Bulls replacements. Back through the hands of McPherson. Big ball carry there from Bloodworth, and one-handed offload there, and brings the power players back into play once more as McPherson has another bite at the Watsonians players. Still they're short of that 22, but it's livened up, it's energised the crowd. You're hearing the home support really for the first time in the contest, and rightly they're enthused by what they've been watching, certainly in the 12 minutes of the second half.
Yeah, they have. That was Ayr's first kind of counter punch of this second half, but it's Watsonians that win the penalty at the breakdown that actually Blair McPherson does really well getting yards, and then he thinks, oh, I've not been held, I can get back up and go again. But in the process of doing that, he almost gets isolated from his support players, and that's where Watsonians can latch on at the breakdown and win that penalty for McPherson not releasing, and what had looked like beginning to be a threatening attack for Ayr comes to nothing, and Watsonians back into Ayr territory.
And you can see walking with some purpose now to throw the ball into this line at Ayr. One of the vice captains, Carl Davis. He'd have enjoyed the experience of being part of a side that were winners, of course, in the sprint series. And trying to think if they actually had any sprint matches at Myreside, because they're playing games at Megatland, which were effectively home games. So this is the first home game in a while.
Yep, and it looks like they're enjoying being back in the hallowed turf.
Berg is tackled by Beattie. Back it comes, little grubber kick through is gathered on the edge of the fringes there of the 22. And back it goes, chases on, and Baggett has it once more, launches the high kick as he was coming close to Robert Beattie there. One well in the air once more as well by Watsonians team Harry Patterson. That'll give his teammates courage as well as and confidence, as Baggett's kick this time wasn't the cleanest from hand, but the referee had already intervened.
Good accuracy from Baggett to pick out the referee to hit with his kick there. Not sure it was entirely deliberate or not. That's the occasion where you'd like to see Watsonians play. Baggett's up and under. It's really well taken from, I think it's Harry Patterson, wasn't it, the Watsonians fullback. They're on the front foot. Ayr's defence is not set, and you think, right now, let your first receiver get flat. Let's look at a couple of passes and look to play into the Ayr defence. But they're just thinking, actually, no, let's just keep doing what we're doing, keep building the pressure through our kicking game, through getting territory. But on that occasion, picking out the referee with the kick. So because it's hit the referee, it means that Watsonians were in possession, so they get the put into the scrum. A couple more changes from Ayrshire Bulls in that time there as well, was it? So I think their fly half has maybe gone off, so William Hunt being replaced.
Yeah, there's certainly changes in the visitors' ranks. We'll get confirmation of those in just a second. As watching on now, snap challenge, ball comes back towards Scott. Scott is tackled quite high there. Here's Gavin Wilson is on for William Hunt.
Blair McPherson's having a 10-minute cool down.
Yeah, he was up against this mighty scrum half here. Billy Wiz character as he goes with that little coif of hair in at the front. There was that high challenge, and immediately the open palm. He was frustrated with himself. I think he was well aware of what was coming. So he'll take a seat for 10 minutes, watch on. 4-point game, intriguing contest. There'll still be plenty of game time for him to rejoin the match after 10 minutes.
It's just almost when you get tired, when you've played 55 minutes in the baking heat, your technique can get a little bit sloppy. I think that's exactly what happened there from McPherson. Rather than just working to get low to accelerate into the tackle to put a really big physical hit in, just got a little bit lazy, just stayed too high, didn't bend where he needed to. And as a result, he's given territory, a good attacking position to Watsonians, but also more importantly, he's spending 10 minutes in the bin here without Ayrshire Bulls, without their captain.
And Smeaton is off. He's been an effective figure in that first half, replaced by Archie Simpson. The referee had played out a period of advantage there, and back they will come for the penalty as Baggett will aim this one, I would imagine, to the corner. 20 points to 16 the scoreline. But the extra element of intrigue is the fact that Ayrshire Bulls are minus their captain for about 8.5 minutes of this second half. We'll see if Watsonians can really capitalise.
Yeah, and as Watsonians have built pressure in this second half, the referee is just not been on their side, but they've got favour because they've been the ones on the front foot. That it's just Ayr that are being forced into making penalties, kind of conceding penalty after penalty, and it helps allow Watsonians to keep building this pressure, and they're in a great attacking position.
Yeah, back to Scott once more, and again the scrum half in position to organise, and again playing some crash ball. Bulls eventually getting the Watsonians players to the deck. Scott goes in once more, has a look at the options. Baggett this time tries to sidestep his way through. Fine footwork there from Baggett, but eventually slowed up. The ball comes out towards the right hand side. So Carl Main's going to be important at this stage, you'd imagine, up against the 14 men of Ayrshire Bulls. Will relish the opportunity to have a real press at the line. Baggett certainly found some space. Baggett round the corner, and for the second time in the space of a week, Jason Baggett finds some space inside the opposition 22. He's able to round the corner and in underneath the post. A very similar score to the one at the Green Yards last weekend. He positioned himself just the other side of the post. There's the pass coming now by way of Scott, and it worked its way out to Baggett, who had just pulled away, found a gap, round the corner, was able to evade the challenge from Cavan, and the try awarded to Watsonians, and they extend the lead.
It's fantastic work. I think it's Van Niekerk, the big second row, that all day Watsonians have just pummeled at Ayr. They've just gone with that one pass, with that pick and go. On this occasion, Van Niekerk's in that first receiver. He's the one that you think is going to carry, but he's just a really deft sleight of hand that he passes the ball behind one forward to Baggett on the outside, and Ayr's defence not expecting that, they're not set for that, and it's a relatively straightforward canter over the line for Baggett as a result.
And you wonder if a lot's going to hinge on the next 5 or so minutes with McPherson still in the bin, watching on. Watsonians have certainly come alive in this second half as they did a week ago, but Ayrshire Bulls were strong in the second period in their home victory over Heriots as well. But that's tries now from Bobby Bratton right at the start of the second half. Harrison Courtney and now Jason Baggett all coming in the second half to turn around a deficit at half time.
The coach will be delighted that 2 replacements have scored their tries as well, so it's showing the impact that he will claim to have had. But in fairness to Watsonians, their bench has added a bit of energy. They've got them on the front foot against Ayrshire Bulls. They've struggled to deal with it. Yeah.
In some ways, that rotational option, the rotational tactics have worked, policies worked quite nicely for them, because a lot of players that started today came off the bench quite early last weekend in their win, so they're getting a fair amount of game time. And I suppose with a fairly sizable squads, that's the one thing that the coaches will be very mindful of, to keep the players happy, that every player, certainly when they're fit and on song, will be wanting as much game time as possible.
Yeah, and if you've got a big squad or a strong squad, then it's great to be able to use it. The challenge for coaches is often actually to have the confidence to do it, to make the changes. So whether it's around the half-time mark, or on this occasion there was a lot of changes in the kind of 40 to 50 minute window, but it means that the players know that they've been backed by the coaches. But it also, as we have another water break, it also means that the players have to be on their game, because if they want to be playing, they know that they need to be playing really, really well. Otherwise, their position will be gone, because they've got that real strength and depth across the squad.
That's an alternative water break in the stand.
Hydration of sorts, is it? Yeah.
Slightly different fluid intake.
Yep. Hopefully got some suntan lotion on as well today.
As the spectators will be watching on with interest. Of course, there's a fair few that have made their way through, we understand, from Alloway as well, to cheer on the Ayrshire Bulls. But you can understand why they would want a fairly regimented system of water breaks on an afternoon such as this, as we see Lomond McPherson heading into the changing room. So most likely another Watsonians change made with 20 minutes of the game left to play. And it's going to be a crucial few minutes, certainly for Ayrshire Bulls, until they get back to a full complement of players. Carl Davis, Watsonians vice-captain, then throwing the ball in. Kotsia on for Lomond McPherson. There's confirmation of the change with the right winger removed. Davis again, just trying to find the pass. People like Baggett are willing to run into contact. Again, Baggett, Cape Town born South African, spent a good number of years at Melrose, really becoming accustomed with the Scottish game at that level before agreeing to become a part-time professional. As Watsonians knocking the ball on around the fringes of that 22 once more. 27 points to 16 the scoreline, and we're into the final 20 minutes of the match.
Yeah, and Ayr look tired, or Ayrshire should get out of the habit of calling them Ayrshire. Ayrshire Bulls look tired. I don't think their bench has had the same impact. That they're missing Archie Smeaton, I think Lewis McNamara, both their back rowers who were so destructive, so physically dominant in that first half. Both of them off. Obviously their captain, the number 8 Blair McPherson, in the sin bin as well just now, so that they're not matching the kind of the physicality that Watsonians are bringing, which Ayrshire did match in that first half. So it's now how do they arrest control back of this game? Maybe try and look at increasing tempo, play with a bit more width, but it's difficult in these conditions.
Yeah. Cam Jones, as Colin mentioned, the replacement scrum half with that strapping just around the right knee, launches one forward down at the heart of the pitch. That juggled and knocked on. The referee was going to play a little advantage. He was watching just how close to the touchline the ball was going to end up there.
They're not driving straight.
There's the kick downfield.
And maybe that's the break that the Bulls need, because if you think about the second half, Watsonians have not made many mistakes. They've been pretty clinical when they've had ball in hand. They've had a good physicality. Their set piece has been really strong. When they've been in position, they've capitalised and taken the points, got the scoreboard moving, punished any Ayrshire errors. On that occasion they have coughed up possession, so this could be a chance. The overthrow from the Bulls though. Yes. So it's not a chance for them to get an attack.
No immediate damage done there as Dom Coetzee had knocked on, and the throw-in resulting in Watsonians back in possession of the ball. There's the grubber kick down into that 22, watched all the way by Liam McNamara. Were they debating whether or not that could have been a 50-22? An interception here, and looking over his shoulder, Neil Irvin Hess touching the ball down, almost in disbelief that he'd scored a try. Now he, like Baggett, was on the score sheet last weekend, so there was some uncertainty. He had the referee in conversation, one or two quick players asking, was that a 50-22? Liam McNamara's throw-in, clearly a misunderstanding, as he wanted to get on with play very, very quickly. And what about that as a gift-wrapped present for the Watsonians replacement? Well, number 8, he's accustomed to playing across that back row. He won't score an easier try.
It's almost surreal that, and arguably that's taken the game away from the Bulls as well. That McNamara just thinking, okay, we can try and get a bit of tempo into the game. That we're struggling with the physicality, so can we break the game up, fragment it, and see if that helps? But the other Bulls players maybe not quite on the same hymn sheet, and because Irvin Hess has scored under the post, it's another easy conversion. It's been a dominant second half from Watsonians.
That turned out to be an even better result than a 50-22 would have been potentially.
That's for sure.
Getting the throw in, but yeah, just that uncertainty there, and an element of disbelief on the player as he looked round, and there was no reason for him not to touch down and accept it was a legitimate try. Box kick then from Scott. Ayrshire Bulls then looking to try and respond. Maguire has it now. Replacement hooker is tackled though just before he can make himself and the ball reach the halfway line. Bulls showing some urgency, not surprisingly. They're the scoreline in the top left hand corner of the screen, 34 points to 16. And we're watching on now an Ayrshire Bulls side increasingly determined to get a foothold back into this match. We've not seen a huge amount of them in this second half, but they're gaining some ground in Watsonians territory. They've won the penalty. Watsonians going off their feet. Again, Cam Jones was wanting to get on with it quickly. Perhaps he felt he maybe has to put the brakes on because he doesn't want to
number 22.
Increase the number of mistakes being made in the game by just rushing things too much. So they're going to take the time, clear from hand, and line up a position close to the 22.
Yeah, it's been a while since the Bulls have been at this end of the field, so I think on that occasion smart actually not to take the quick tap penalty, just settle, get into position, hope that you can get an accurate line out here and look to launch an attack. And if the Bulls have got any chance of getting back into this game, they do need to make sure they're the next on the scoreboard, and ideally sooner rather than later. But another line out just not accurate enough.
And eventually gathered by Neil Irvin Hess, who himself is enjoying his time. So that's Neil Irvin Hess, Jason Baggett and Bobby Bratton all scoring tries off the bench in the second half, illustrating, as Colin mentioned, the effectiveness of the bench. But Ayrshire Bulls want to compound errors with more errors. There was the offload there from McNamara. They'll try and work it out towards the right hand side as they cross the halfway line. Picked up once more by Cam Jones. Back in now is the captain, Blair McPherson. It's been an expensive and difficult 10 minutes for him to watch, and expensive in terms of points conceded on the park, as that trundling, bouncing ball is gathered, but right on the touchline. Baggett was coming across just to try and shepherd the ball into touch. The assistant referee had raised the flag, so it will be, as we get confirmation from, I think that was Grant Stephen, the assistant by the stand side, confirming it will be a Watsonians throw-in.
I think they're just about right watching the replay of whose ball that should be. So
it's a man down the midfield.
Bobby Beattie going with the grubber down that narrow channel just to try and apply the pressure. It's the one that you want the ball just to stay in field, so that Watsonians have to play it. You can either tackle them into touch or make them play from deep. Just the hard ground, the ball just kicked on that half roll almost too much, and as a result it's Watsonians that get the put in, and given how accurate their line-out's been in the second half, you'd expect them to get this and then clear their lines. But if they don't make touch, Ayrshire Bulls, their counter-attack is threatened. It's not quite been unleashed yet, but you never know as the minutes tick by and the fatigue in the legs. It could be an opportunity for that Bulls back three to to try and carve open from any sort of loose kick that Watsonians might make.
Cal, you staying on? Are we making a change? Or?
Cal Davis there.
Okay.
And the referee coming across to the Watsonians vice captain. And I think the referee himself, well, it's been a busy afternoon for him, but just the one yellow card shown, and I don't think there's been too many decisions of it, or any obvious decisions that we've had reason to question from up here.
I'd agree with that. Yep, the game on the whole has flowed, and yeah, no beef with the man in the middle on this occasion. It's been a good game. It's, in particular the second half. It's a lot more action.
Another try bonus afternoon for Watsonians. They'll want to certainly see this one out to ensure it's a try bonus victory. It would be a mighty task for Ayrshire Bulls to completely turn this game on its head now, with only 12 minutes of the match left to play, and the deficit 34-16 in favour of Watsonians. And again they're going to the bench. Campbell Wilson there in our picture has been a replacement for the hard-working Cal Davis. And again, Davis started life on the bench last weekend, but came on and he must have had a good 20-25 minutes involvement in the opening weekend. So again, good use of rotation. Bulls though on the charge at the moment. They'll be hurting, having had most of the first half, and at times for most of the second half, it has to be said, playing second fiddle to Watsonians. Looking to try and strip this one out is Gavin Wilson. Has it now, spins round. There's confirmation of Campbell Wilson replacing Cal Davis, as it's back now towards Cam Jones, looking to try and open things up. The number 8 and captain Blair McPherson will work right to the very end here, as it's back now towards Henderson. Replacement prop forward. Back it comes to Jones once more. They're trying to work it down this left hand side, and the referee's going to go into the pocket for the second time in the game.
And the second time a high tackle, as you heard Finlay Brown saying, it's the same as the other one.
Lewisberg this time.
Yep, just poor tackle technique, I think, just whether it's fatigue or it's, just good pace onto ball from Richie Simpson. He's clattered high, don't like to see that, so it's good that he gets straight back to his feet. And like Blair McPherson earlier in the second half, it's no issues, I don't think, for the Watsonians team to see their outside centre Lewisberg and spending 10 minutes in the bin.
And while this opens the door slightly, it's now slightly ajar, you would say, for Ayrshire Bulls in terms to eat into the advantage that Watsonians have in the game in the remaining 10 minutes we have of the contest. But again, the throw in, Maguire looking to throw in, couldn't find Ayrshire Bulls' hands, maybe a little misunderstanding in the line in terms of what was required, and it's back with Baggett, and he aims a kick downfield. It's gathered this time though by Jamie Shedden. He tries to make some ground. Good powerful running now from Shedden. Needs a good offload. Simpson takes the ball on. One-handed offload himself, but it finds Watsonian's hands. And Harry Patterson again positions himself well just to stifle that opportunity and nip that in the bud from an Ayrshire Bulls point of view. And you can see the appreciation shown there from Van Niekerk to the young fullback. But we've not seen a huge amount of Jamie Shedden. This by far and away his most effective run from open play. But the pass and then ultimate offload leading to Harry Patterson being able to gather the ball in. Patterson was under a bit of pressure, but suppose did the initial work of closing the door and making the Ayrshire Bulls work that little bit harder. He did take the ball over his own try line, but
he did really well to get back there.
He did well, in fairness.
The passing channel, as it were, of Cam Jones, the Bulls' replacement scrum half, who had done well to take the fantastic offload from Jamie Shedden. Great break from Shedden, but yep, last ditch from Harry Patterson, although he was tackled over his own line. The fact that he got in there and got his hands on the ball is so important, because, as he said, Stuart, if Ayr had scored right there and then on the 70-minute mark, with Watsonians down to 14 men for the best part of their remaining 10 minutes, I think we'll get 20 or 30 seconds possibly with Lewisberg back on the field. It could have made for an exciting finale.
Well, certainly Bulls will want to leave with something some form of points, losing bonus, and they themselves, I mean, they've worked very hard, as we mentioned, in that first half. The only try to show for their efforts was that Bobby Beattie breakaway from the edge of the 22. McPherson now picks up in the number 8 position. Has he got enough to cross the line? Playing a captain's role, and that try coming 8 minutes from the end of the game. McPherson certainly trying to pay back his teammates, having spent 10 minutes off this torrid second half for Bulls in the sin bin, controlling it with the left boot, just allowing him to pick and go. The 1-on-1 situation opening up there, and he just clattered into Baggett, and he was not going to be denied.
It's the one that Cam Jones, the replacement scrum half, he's wanting to get the ball out. He's wanting the backs have a chance to attack, and then as McPherson takes it, it's almost like, well, you better score having done that, and McPherson did. So good decision from the Bulls number 8, the Bulls captain, and it's 34-23 with 7 minutes to go. So Watsonians will be in no rush to get back to halfway to take this restart. They'll try and take every second they can off the clock.
Yeah, they're still holding all the aces in the contest, despite the fact that they have a man in the bin. But I suppose you look at the game at the start at 2 o'clock this afternoon. If you were to say one of the sides is going to win the contest with a try bonus point, you'd say, well, whichever team that happens to be, they're going to be delighted with their afternoon's work. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, the two form teams of the last couple of iterations of the Super 6, and yes, for Watsonians, and I mean, this second half has been a really dominant performance, which they'll be delighted about. As we can identify, by no means perfect, but a lot of real positives for Fergus Pringle and the coaches to take away.
Scott once more through the hands. Kieran Watt takes the ball just over that 22. Back it comes again. Campbell Wilson, determined figure. That's important ball retention. Baggett again, sleight of hand there, forcing Watsonians back. Dom Coetzee up from fullback there, supporting. Stolen though, and Ed Bloodworth now secures possession. The lock forward for Ayrshire Bulls. Looking to deliver the box kick, Cam Jones from the edge of his 22, under a little bit of pressure there from Seb Cecil. Baggett tries to read the flight of the ball. Here the referee was insistent that went backwards, did appear to do so. And Scott goes in once again, the Watsonian scrum half. Again, Watsonians trying to make some ground inside the Ayrshire Bulls half off the field, and Bulls will certainly want to force Watsonians further down the park. Watsonians just now mindful of the time, just over 5 minutes of contest left to play, down a man but leading by a margin of 11 points, and the try bonus already in the bag, so it would continue a fine run of form. Of course, they're near neighbours, Boroughmuir Bears, winners down at the Green Yards last night, 2 wins from 2 for Graham Shule's side. This will be a sore one for Ayrshire Bulls, but they'll, I'm sure, recover, and they'll be even more determined to get back to winning ways next weekend. Stick with us as well, of course, because there's more action to come this afternoon. Stirling up against Heriot's, the final match of the second weekend of fixtures in this FOSROC Super 6 competition. Scott still has it, still with Watsonians, working it around the fringes of the 10 with Miller just towards the left hand side. Scott goes in once more. Miller opting to just leather the ball right-footed downfield. That's allowed to bounce a few times. Watched all the way by Liam McNamara. Escapes the tensions off the tackle. Patterson is up, staying up right there, running into Cavan. Eventually goes to deck. Almost 4 minutes of the game left to play now, and the Bulls are having to work it through the hands from deep inside their own 22. They'll be mindful of the time as much as the Watsonians players will be, and no other option, it would seem, than to exit from pretty much their own try line down just beyond the 22. And Colin, one of the things I suppose at this stage in the game you'll be starting to think about is your player of the match.
Yes, yeah, it's been we see a Bulls replacement forwards, William Farquhar, on his knees, on his haunches. It's no surprise it's an exhausting game, and there's been a number of real good performances. I think that the first half, the Bulls back row in particular were physical, were dominant. I think Robert Beattie, the score he got, the way he kind of marshals the Bulls attack and defence, he's really important. James Malcolm, his set piece was really important, but with Watsonians well in front, looking like they're going to lead. I think you look at Quagga van Niekerk has been huge. Just the charge down at the beginning of the second half, I think that was a really important factor in the game. I also think actually Harrison Courtney, the loose head prop, who's still charging just now, so 77 minutes on the clock for a loose head prop, and scored a try at a really important time for Watsonians. He was the one that kind of burrowed out of the tackle of McPherson, the Bulls captain, got the score for Watsonians. So he's going to be, which I feel almost appalled that I'm giving the man of the, or the player of the match to a prop, but yeah, Harrison Courtney's the man.
Well, Harrison Courtney, of course, came into today's game on the back of some good form shown on the opening weekend, and he's continued. He's one of the try scorers along with Baggett, Irvin Hess and Bobby Bratton for Watsonians, as the penalty has been awarded to Ayrshire Bulls. So a chance for them immediately to work it through the hands. A sniff of an opportunity to get a losing bonus point. Won't be a try bonus point, indeed more than one score to secure that, as Bobby Beattie's wrapped in the tackle. It's recycled again very quickly. Ayrshire Bulls once more on the charge. Replacement scrum half Cam Jones in again, looking to recycle ball. Back it comes once more through the backs, as Bulls again making ground beyond that 10 metre line. Jones in again, Bloodworth has it again. Quick ball required here, and the referee's bringing play back as Bobby Beattie was scampering up to the fringes of that 22. Colin, we'll get to see this again. It's been a well-tempered contest. There's a coming together of players now as tempers beginning to fray somewhat, but over the piece it's been a contest that's simmered at times but hasn't boiled over.
No, it's been played absolutely in the correct spirit of the game, and it's just a real shame actually that the Bulls' attack there was stopped, because it was a really good attack, as we see a good position for a prop getting man of the match or player of the match. Yep. Hands on knees.
He straightened up his head. He straightened up. He knows he's in camera.
Gasping for air. I think he was about to keel over and just lie down and enjoy the sun for a few minutes. But now he's realised that he's getting the accolades, and he's earned that little sip of water. So need to have a real solid word with myself about giving a prop a player of the match. But no, I think the importance of the try. I think the dominance in the second half that Watsonians have had in set piece, a couple of big scrums, getting their maul going. So fair play to Harrison Courtney, and in fairness to the rest of the Watsonians team in particular for this second half.
And I think as well, when you've had maybe a tentative, maybe at times a tricky first half an hour of the game, to produce this sort of level of performance in the second half, and to have done that sort of back to back, because we didn't see the best of them in the first half an hour last weekend. Certainly Ayrshire Bulls similar. I mean, their performance in the second half last weekend was very effective. They've just not been able to respond to this Watsonians turnaround in the second half. Yeah,
and it almost took the charge down from Van Niekerk that led to the first try just into the second half for Bobby Bratton, the replacement prop. And after that almost just energised Watsonians. It proved the spark, that the intensity, the accuracy, their game just went to another level, and Bulls couldn't cope. Whereas they had the kind of the physical dominance, the high energy in that first half. It just flipped on its head, almost as a result of that charge down, of that score. And Watsonians didn't look back, and unfortunately for Bulls, they couldn't get a stranglehold on the game.
And we'll try and work it out towards the right hand side again. Maybe a little misunderstanding there with McNamara as he positioned himself on the right. Ayrshire Bulls, 90 seconds of the game left to play. They're certainly wanting to end on the front foot. A very flat pass there. Referee Finlay Brown allowing play to continue down that right hand side. And once more the powerhouses come in now. Calvin Henderson, the latest player to carry with some purpose for Ayrshire Bulls. Once more it's recycled by Jones, the replacement scrum half. Ian Moody off, Bobby Bratton back on. So a second guest star appearance from the try scorer in the opening minute of the second half for Watsonians. He's back on the park. He had a lengthy spell on the park in the second half, but he's back on for a little cameo at the end. And a minute of the game left to play. Again, I have to say, Colin, it's been a very positive, a decent advert for this level of rugby in this competition.
Yeah, it has indeed. Both teams playing with the right attacking intent, the physicality. It's been noticeable, some of the intensity of the collisions. I think the defences have been really, really strong, and then we've started to see some glimpses of some good attacking play, which, again, that last passage there for the Bulls, just the coming to nothing in the end, but a lot of good interchange, forwards and backs kind of coming into the middle of the field, then going back down that right hand side. Beginning to recognise as well are some of the bigger forwards just putting in some footwork just before the contact, which makes such a difference, because it means the defence don't get an aggressive tackle. You end up running at an arm rather than a shoulder. That can just get your team onto the front foot, and then from there you just get the momentum. And you can see that in future weeks that will just lead to, when the teams have played a bit more, when they're a bit more settled, know their combinations, that will lead to further opportunities to capitalise and hopefully score tries.
Yeah, all the assessments we make must have the simple fact that it is week 2 of the competition in mind, that there'll still be maybe some cobwebs to dust off as Watsonians are looking through Jason Baggett to play the ball into touch. The referee has a look at the watch. There's the 3 shrill whistles from our match referee Finlay Brown, and that brings the second match this weekend in the FOSROC Super 6 Championship to a close. And coming from behind and keeping their unbeaten run going, Watsonians, the champions of the sprint series. There you are, winners by 34 points to 23 against the reigning champions Ayrshire Bulls. And after a rather tentative opening, 28-30 minutes or so, similar to the Watsonians game in the Borders last weekend, it started to come to life, but particularly in the second half, where Watsonians bossed the contest for long spells. So much so that they racked up a try bonus point win, which will see them sit proudly at the top of the FOSROC table this weekend, alongside the likes of Boroughmuir Bears, who of course have 2 wins from their opening 2 matches of the new season. Colin Gregor's been bringing you some fine analysis of the contest. We will have a look back at some of the highlights, and of course we will go back to that very early score in the match from Bobby Beattie when he ran about 80 metres to finish off a fine move, an opportunist score, an interception of a Murray Scott pass. We'll get to see his lung-busting effort, but that was one of the few highlights in the games for Ayrshire Bulls, but we didn't necessarily think so at the time. Let's look back at the 80 minutes. Here we are then, the opening penalty for Ayrshire Bulls, coming inside the first 7 minutes to give them a foothold in the contest, leading by 3 points to 0. Penalty was retaken, that's the second effort. And this the aforementioned try from the centre Beattie.
Yeah, and we touched on just how the forwards just didn't give Watsonians any sort of dominance, and a great read from Bobby Beattie. And you look at the efforts of Harry Patterson in particular, the Watsonians fullback, but he's just got so much ground to make up. And Bobby Beattie, a former winger in his youth, wasn't going to be caught, and just that's a cracking conversion from the touchline. And then we see Miller coming back for Watsonians, getting their first points on the board, not panicking early on in this game, thinking, we need to chase tries when they were facing a deficit. They just took opportunity to get points when they came. As we see at the beginning of the second half, the pressure Van Niekerk puts on the Bulls' clearance. Great follow-up from Moody, the way that he gets that loose ball, presents it, and it's on a plate for Bobby Bratton. What was it, 42 seconds after he'd come onto the pitch, something like that, Stuart? A couple of little traded penalties. Just it was still a bit cagey at this point, and then Watsonians really kicked on, didn't they? They just got the real dominance up front. This came from a line-out maul where they were on the front foot, just multi-phase, controlled physical rugby, and it's a great pirouette from Courtney, the prop, to get out of McPherson's tackle, get the score. And then it's was it a turning point? I think it was important for Bulls when they lost their captain, their talisman, Blair McPherson, for just that high tackle on the Watsonian scrum half, and he knew straight away that you can't tackle Murray Scott around the head. 10 minutes in the bin. The Watsonians' pressure just continued to grow, and this is the hands from Van Niekerk. It's brilliant. Rather than carrying it on, you think, oh, maybe he'll go to Cal Davies. You saw him outside him getting tackled by two boys, but actually he's got that deft of hand to give it to Baggett, who runs in unopposed. Another 7-pointer for the men from Myreside, and then it's a minor implosion from Ayr, just making it all too easy for Irvin Hess to gather a loose ball from an attempted quick line out, and I think everyone's thinking, has that just happened?
Yeah. When it's not your day, it's not your day.
Yeah, and again under the posts, an easy 7-pointer. Then we see again the kind of consistency of Finlay Brown, the referee. One high tackle, yellow card. Well, that's another one very similar, as Finlay Brown said at the time. So no arguments for Lewis Berg. He spent the last 10 minutes of the game in the sin bin, and whilst it did lead to a Blair McPherson score, it wasn't terminal for Watsonians. They did manage to ride out the rest of the Bulls' storm and come away as, I would say, as deserved victors in the end.
Yeah, and even after 2 weeks and the prospect of the teams getting more familiar with one another, the fluency of games, becoming easier on the eye. I have to say that after 2 weeks it still has been a very good watch, and Watsonians, Fergus Pringle will be delighted with that try bonus point. Ayrshire Bulls certainly asking questions towards the end. It's a chance for them to take stock as well, because Myreside was never going to be an easy place to come to, particularly with the Watsonians having such a good spring and now summer with 2 victories back to back. I mean, that's going to be a pleasant place to be, that sort of conversation, because while they were far from perfect this afternoon, the fact that they continue a winning run against this level of opposition is only going to enhance their own confidence, their own standing, and their belief that they can do a bit of a double this year.
Yeah, and we saw that in the second half in particular. The Watsonians, the impact of the bench was important, but also they just played to their strengths. They actually their error count was very, very low for the first 20-30 minutes of the second half, and it just gave Bulls no into the game. They were smart and exiting their own exiting their own half, and then when there were opportunities, they just got their forwards, their big ball carriers, hands on ball, and just gave Bulls no outs. Bulls then had to try and force it, and as a result, they just made a few more errors, couldn't get back into the game. As we see,
I think your man knows.
Yep.
I think he knows that he's going to be presented with something. He's trying to hide his pleasure and delight.
Well, yeah, I think he's hoping that he's going off to a paddling pool or something like that.
Yeah.
Get a chance to cool down, but there we go.
Here he is. Harrison Courtney then, the FOSROC Super 6 player of the match for the second round tie. Watsonians victors against Ayrshire Bulls. But I'd imagine he'll be just simply delighted that his team have got the second win, and he'll be hoping to add a FOSROC Super 6 winners medal to his collection in the coming weeks.
Yeah, it's always the one, isn't it? Rugby is a team game, so whilst for a prop, the individual accolades of a player of the match are great, it's all about this and the fact that his team, Watsonians Rugby, are top of the pile. Yeah,
the Edinburgh sides of Watsonians then are top. Boroughmuir Bears second, 2 wins from 2, but Boroughmuir only able to get one of the 2 try bonus points, so that's why Watsonians are out in front with 10 points from 2 games. Then the Bulls obviously in third place with the win over Heriots last Friday night, coupled with this afternoon's defeat. Of course, Heriots and Stirling County are next up, so stick with us for further coverage of the FOSROC Super 6, the final match of the weekend, coming up at 4:30. But that's the table as things stand just at the moment. Their confirmation of the Wolves against Heriots coming up from Bridge Hawk in around about 40 minutes from now. There's the scoreline from Myreside, I beg your pardon. 34 points to 23 for Watsonians. Of course, they were familiar with Meggetland during the Sprint Series, but back on home soil for this competition. And the Southern Knights, of course, still to get off and running with that defeat. Second successive home defeat this season, this time at the hands of a familiar face in Graham Shule and his Boroughmuir Bears side. Well, that draws to a close our coverage just for the moment, but as I say, stick with us. We'll be back on air just before the 4:30 kick-off for the match at Bridgehawk between Stirling County and Heriots, and I'm sure that will be an equally enjoyable affair. But from Colin Gregor and from myself, Stuart McFarlane, wherever you've been watching this afternoon, we're delighted to have had your company. That's it from us. Goodbye.